4, 3.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate, Oh My Feelings. How are you, good sir?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go and watch a movie. You watch it, come back to us, and we break it down and geek out on it, nerd out on it, and all that good stuff. Last week, we asked you to go and watch The Fellowship of the Ring as a part of our coverage of all trio of those movies throughout the month of December. And to speak to us about it, we have a lovely little guest here, Magitech Mags. How are you?
Hey y'all, thank you for having me. When I first saw this particular movie, I saw it from a family member who lent it to us on VHS. So I didn't originally see
VHS? Wow.
yes, on VHS. I didn't really originally see it in theater, but definitely got me down that journey of Lord of the Rings. So I am happy to talk about it. I've seen the theatrical cut and the extended cut, and the extended cut is far superior.
Well,
I
that's true.
agree. I agree. All My Feelings. How you said it backstage, but say it live. How many times did I make you watch this week?
You didn't make me, but as a favor to you, my friend, I went through and I watched the extended cut twice for you. Even though I'm not doing any of the note taking this time. This is Meph show on this one.
This is more of a Meph show, and because
If you have any qualms or issues with the content, him.
yes,
Not me.
all me, and because I'm so well prepared, and I had not had to remake the same video 23 times. By the way, it's the next review I'm working on, and it's still I have to make another one. I came not prepared. So 1 second.
Okay, of course.
So we got a vampire.
I will in the interim. Magic Max is the biggest fan of the second best Final Fantasy game.
No, it's the number one Final Fantasy game of all time.
There we go. Baby Meth. And of course, the extended cuts all here. Love it. It was a birthday gift from my wife because she knows how much I love Lord of the Rings. She also got me with this came a ring, the actual ring, sorry, replica ring of Lord of the Rings, with the writing and everything in Elvish and all that good stuff. So I'm pretty good. And if you notice from the intro, before I had this, I had the map of Middle
Yes,
Earth
you
that
did.
my
Yes, you
brother
did.
got me for another different birthday, which I cherish, and it is right there
Mhm.
on my wall. I just don't, I don't have the camera pointing at it.
Oh,
Yeah.
just as an aside, I have to say, a drunk poet. You're wrong. It's actually tactics is better than 6, but 6 is better than 4
Oh my God.
for
Let's
MedTech.
say hello. Let's say hello to the chat. Chat, good evening. Lester, San Jose, the Skeptic Tank. We've got Danielle, we've got Dempsey, we've got Paul Harley, and all the other lurkers in the chat. You are most welcome. Enjoy the show. Let's jump right
Oh,
into it,
just
right?
as a quick aside, Lester, if you are actually in the States, they actually have all of the extended cuts on HBO Max or Max now.
I was just gonna say, first of
Free to
all,
stream.
I want to thank Lester San Jose for being the first, well, second member, but the first ever member of the Meth Gang, or I call it Meth Addict. Thank you for the membership, dude. Uh, for some reason, my chat in Restream doesn't work, so just as a bonus to this is the sort of the last stream I am using Restream. So fuck you, Restream. I'm leaving.
We're finally free.
Freedom.
Everyone else's shit, like Restream and StreamYards and EVMux, all of them have their different kinks that don't work. Restream is by far the worst. But thank you, Lester. And yes, it is on HBO. Plus, sometimes it is on. I'm not going to call it free TV, but we have sort of our internet provider, our fiber optics guy or production whatever, a company that does our fiber. Do supplies with like basic TV, and they have their own movie channel.
Oh,
And
well, yeah, you can watch that on a lot of the random
yeah,
different
and
cable
I was
channels if you have cable in the States, but it won't be the extended version.
okay. So that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
My wife is currently now watching Return of the King because they're doing a repeat of all three of them, but it's only the theatrical cut.
Okay.
Well, and
All right.
and I actually have that box set, Mephisto. Uh, yep, but not we don't have my folks and I own it because we kind of went in on it. It was, quite expensive to do it. But we don't have the covering there. So we actually had to buy the movie separately because we had the
Oh,
original Fellowship of the Ring extended cut that box. But then we realized when we wanted to watch because we hadn't watched it recently and we just kind of watched it again and we're like, oh, we don't have the extended version of the Two Towers nor the Return of the King, so we fixed that one right away.
nice.
I mean,
Oh,
because I've seen it, I've seen them all extended cut. It's just actually no, the extended is actually technically speaking the original movie. It had to be cut down for theaters.
yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm just gonna say I love physical media. I'm not big on physical media. I can't own a lot of these things. A, in terms of space. B, in terms of just money
Expense.
wise. It's
Yeah.
going towards the kids stuff rather than physical media. So whenever I have it, I really, really appreciate it. And so with that, we will start the show proper with going into something we call behind the screens.
Action take 2.
Behind the screens is where we usually turn to All My Feelings, and we go get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, behind the stuff, production, all that good stuff. Today, it's my turn because I love it so much. All right. So before we start, I have it.
That was the fact that chat you see the big light pop up like, "Oh, he just opened up his Word doc."
The thing is, I have like a dark mode on it, but it's terrible, and it sort of projects the same like strength of light as the light one. So I just keep it on light one because Google Docs suck. Anyway, but for now it's good. So I have something highlighted. I wanted to say it out first because it's very special. Christopher Lee, who plays Saruman
Oh yes. Oh,
in Lord of the Rings, was
should have been
first of all,
Gandalf.
he
Should
reads.
have been Gandalf.
Yeah, first of all, he reads or used to read till he died every single year.
Token.
At least one
Yeah.
time he read Lord of the Rings, not the Silmarillion, just the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He loved it so much, and he actually met J.R.R. Tolkien. He actually met him, had a talk with him. And originally he was supposed to be Gandalf. He was supposed to play Gandalf.
Actually, no. He wanted to play Gandalf, but
I don't know.
I know this because I'm a huge fan of Christopher Lee.
Okay. Why did he play Saruman then?
He was actually cast as Saruman given his experience playing villains such as his entire back history, his back catalog. He was Dracula in all of the old British horror films.
And to be fair, Ian McKellen said he never worked with him before. He wanted to work with him, even though he didn't like any of his work.
Yep.
He thought it was sort of not on par with film, as we say. So initially, Miramax was the first studio that actually wanted to invest money and put some work into Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson wrote a treatment for them, and they wanted it to be just one movie. Peter Jackson wanted it to be two. They even wrote it and structured it to work as two movies. And that kind of fell apart somewhere because they wanted to make just the one. Of course, he had a special connection with somebody that worked with New Line Cinema, so he kind of weaseled his way into talking to Robert Shea. And Robert Shea kind of looked at the treatment and he said, well, why aren't you making three? Because there's three books. So Peter Jackson went into the drawing board, made a whole new treatment, a whole new draft, and did it as a version of three, and got the go ahead to do all three of them all at once, which was a massive risk for New Line at the time. Like I said, they were both shot back to back to back. They had 274 shooting days across 16 months of shooting, and then of course they came back to do a little bit of reshoots here and there after the first movie came out and after the second movie came out. Little touches, not like full on reshoots that they do now for Marvel. So, and the entire 274 days are just as much as the one Apocalypse Now movie. The original narration out of the movie. I'm specifically talking about the Fellowship. All the stuff that I have is for the Fellowship itself. The original narration at the start of the movie was done 3 times, actually. Once by Elijah Wood, the second time by Ian McKellen, both as their characters. And then, because Peter Jackson decided, well, both of them weren't actually there, let me have Cate Blanchett do it because she was alive when the war was
Galadriel.
going on. So
Yeah.
she's the more authority. Plus, she's an elf rather than a human or a wizard. Oh, a hobbit or a wizard. So it would have a little bit more gravitas. That's what he said.
I think that makes sense. And plus, Cate Blanchett carries herself through her voice. I mean, you can. It's very authoritative, like you said, but it's very she does it with such a mystique about it too. Where it gives it that air of something far more not just ancient, but also far more like with a hint of wisdom behind it too. It's just she does such a good job the narration part.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree. Well, just on that note too, how again to Dempsey's point, very emotive, but also the way that her voice is almost otherworldly, where you're in this new world, you as just the viewer for the first time, if you have never read the books or anything, you're trying to understand who these elves are, and this person is something of just immense power. You're aware of it, just how the way that she can actually convey everything, just through even the mental telepathy things that we'll discuss later.
of course. It is written down as soft and commanding, which is very good. The Elvish language that was spoken throughout the movie and the other movies is straight out of the Tolkien books, especially the appendices. They had a dialect coach called Andrew Jack to help the actors do sort of accustom themselves on the pronunciations, and he filled in a few words because Tolkien didn't write the whole dictionary, but he did write the way you're supposed to say certain vowels and consonants, so you
Mhm.
can actually invent a word or fill in the word in case he doesn't have it filled already.
Hmm.
Very unique. Sort of kind of like what the dude who invented the Klingon language did, where he
Correct.
just
Yeah.
improvised and just mismatch and just use words as it's supposed to be heard.
Mhm.
Right. Viggo Mortensen joined the movie when it was already started to shoot. So
Hmm.
they already casted a different Aragorn, a
Yep.
guy called where I have it here. Stuart Townsend. Um, he's not a really well-known actor, but if you've seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Gentlemen.
he's the guy playing Dorian Gray.
Gray. He actually, the reason why he actually was not in this film was also because of that movie, and also because of another really terrible adaptation from a novel called Queen of the Damned
Oh,
from Anne Rice. Yeah,
okay.
he played Lestat.
The
Yeah.
reason Peter Jackson said he didn't want him, not because he's not a good actor, he just looked too young for the role. He wanted someone to look a little bit older. Viggo Mortensen wasn't a Tolkien fan at all. He didn't even read the books.
Hmm.
He didn't prepare. He didn't do anything. They literally called him and said, "Well, you've got till noon. Oh, we've got a plane ticket. We've got everything ready to go. You just need to leave on a dime." And his son Henry was a big Tolkien fan, even though he was 11. And he said, "Dad, you have to go. Like you have to go." And Peter Jackson was so nice to Vigo because he did such a great job coming in like hot. He sometimes he actually flew his family to be with Vigo on set, so his son got to be like saw all the costumes. I've seen a few pictures of him with like
Yeah.
stunt
Yeah. That's cool.
guys who
Yeah.
played the sword. He was carrying the sword, everything.
And
Uh,
wasn't it his son too that tried to help convince him to play the role too? I think I
yes,
remember
Yeah.
reading and hearing that years
Yeah.
ago.
he did. He
'Cause
said, "Dad,
he
you
didn't
have
know
to go
he
and
didn't
play
know the
Aragorn."
stories. Yeah, he didn't know the stories, so he started reading the book, and so that's I mean, Vigo is kind of like a true actor that he understands and he needs to be in that role, so he reads the source material. Gee, what a concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a few more things about Aragorn. I want to go through the rest of the cast here. Orlando Bloom, he read for Faramir rather than Legolas. He did such a good job. They are like, "Oh, he's the look we need," and he landed the role 2 days before he finished his drama school. So he finished everything. He got the role, finished everything, and literally just went fresh. Like it's his first role ever, and just went out there green as it could be to
Because he went right from there into the first Pirates film, right?
uh
I think because of Lord of the Rings, that's how he was able to get
To
the
get the
pirate
Pirates
role
role?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his performance in Fellowship is like just amazing. Well, everybody's performances in the movie itself is amazing. I mean,
There's some ham-fisted acting that we'll get to, because I have my squabbles, but we'll discuss them later.
yeah.
But
Nobody's perfect. Despite him playing a dwarf, John Rhys Davis, aka Sala, is one of the tallest actors in the cast. He is
Yep.
6'1".
how they made that illusion throughout is just, I mean, that's good filmography right there.
What's so great about it too, it was all the forced perspective was
Yep.
how it was done, and it was done so well where everyone thought like, wow, this CGI is really getting on par. Like, wow. But like the magic of movies we've been waiting for is actually being realized. Like, no, this is actually half of it's practical.
Yeah, just about half of it is forced perspective, camera movement, situating people closer to the camera, some people farther than the camera. Make sure they look like they're looking at each other, but in fact they're like about 6 feet apart.
Mhm.
And even Elijah Wood said in one of the behind the scenes stuff that I've watched, he said like it usually you like act as opposed to the other actor, as you can see each other's eyes, and sometimes we had to look at the void, but we had to situate ourselves in the same kind of eye level, and so it would be believable that we're actually there. All right. Side note to this is the movie pumped in about $200 million into the New Zealand economy. So much so that the government, not the local government, the entire government of New Zealand had a minister that was called Minister of Lord of the Rings. In order to do a lot of coordination, making sure the staff, crew, helicopters, all the stuff that they needed to do is taken care of, well-funded. Everything was ready when they needed to be ready because they poured in so much money and like revived a lot of people's like employment and stuff. So it was well worth it.
Well, the thing is too is they built an entire economy that's around it. It still exists today. You can still go on Lord of the Rings tours in New Zealand.
Correct.
Mhm.
So much so that they even built Hobbiton
Yep, it's
a
there.
year before they
Yeah.
started shooting because they had to sort of shave off all the greenery, built all the hobbles and all the fake entrances to everywhere, and then let it sit there and regrow all the greenery to make it look authentic.
Authentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, just the level of detail into all these things, the scenery, the set pieces, the costuming, even like the weaponry and everything. I mean, it's
it was
amazing. All that detail is such eye candy to me.
Which is
and,
so fantastic because I'm sorry, Meph, just as a side tangent
go
here,
ahead.
is you can tell that this was again like the original Star Wars trilogy. This was a labor of love. People who
Yes.
made this wanted to create and be part of this. In
Yep.
fact, some people, which I think you might get to, wanted to be a part of it so bad they got laughed out of auditions. Vin Diesel.
I didn't know that, but okay.
You did not know? No, they
No, I
used
did
to
not know
show
about
Vin
Vin
Diesel's
Diesel, but
audition tapes around set and
oh,
laugh at him.
really?
Why? Why did
Yeah,
because he was that bad?
he was that bad.
Vin Diesel is like the physically biggest nerd ever, like ever. So I
Well, I don't think so.
it doesn't surprise me.
There's one there are two others that I know that are bigger than him, but
Who?
well, I don't know if you remember this. Joe Magliano. Imagine that you might remember the
Yes,
show True
I know
Blood.
I know who that is.
Yeah,
He's from
him.
True Blood. True Blood.
Yeah. the biggest D&D nerd, he's making a 20-year documentary series about Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
That on my list.
Yeah.
All right. Circling back around to Viggo, very special actor because I've got like several
Actually,
things.
Paul is correct about that. It did give us the Pitch Black universe.
It did.
It gave us the
all
Riddick
right.
universe. Yes, that's correct.
So Viggo did all of his own stunts. He used a real steel sword because he wanted to get used to the weight.
Mhm.
He carried that sword everywhere he went. So he went to the bathroom with the sword. He went home with the sword. He went to lunch with the sword. So much so that at one time he went out to a local pub, and on the way he got accosted by 4 policemen.
Because he's got the sword.
It was very weird. He said that suddenly I was surrounded by policemen and I didn't know why.
Are you saying that he's like the end of Cowboy Bebop?
Yes, but no.
You're gonna carry that weight.
Exactly. He at the end of all the shoots, he actually purchased Arwen's horse and gave it as a gift to Liv Tyler's
Tyler?
stunt woman. I think her name is Jane something. Because she did a lot of open writing. She was mainly Liv Tyler's stunt woman, but she did other things as well. So
I mean, what a guy. Viggo is such a
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean,
Viggo is kind of like a Keanu Reeves type. He's just a normal guy, you know? Just
yeah.
yep.
He just happens to be really, really great at acting. I mean, like after
Yeah.
this, what he did Eastern Promises, which is just a fantastic film.
I love that movie so much. He kept insisting that his dialogue would be changed in order to incorporate more Elvish, because he thought it would just fit with his role. His sword trainer, Bob Anderson, called him the best swordsman he ever trained. Now, imagine this. Viggo gets a call. You need to decide. He gets on the plane, lands in New Zealand, goes into the set. His first scene is the fight at Amun Sul at the top.
Oh my gosh.
At the top of his first scene was a sword scene. He never did any sword work in any other movie that he did. He just landed on set, talked to Bob Anderson. Bob Anderson gave him like this half a tip here and there, and they just did the shot. And Bob Anderson said he is just a natural he has a natural physical prowess. So to teach him was just show him the moves, and he just went out and did it.
As an aside on that, I don't know if you have this in your notes or not. Christopher Lee was an amazing fencer, and Christopher Lee commented on the natural talent that Viggo Mortensen had.
Yes, but
that tells you something right there.
Yeah.
They didn't work on the first days, so it must have been a lot later on.
No, he saw them in dailies. But he got to see he had to see everything. Christopher Lee was such a big fan. They gave him access to everything.
I've got notes about that. Right. Injuries. So Viggo Mortensen, it's injuries, and we've got a list.
Yeah.
And I'm just specifically talking about the Fellowship here because there are injuries later on. He chipped his tooth, and as he chipped it, he picked it up from the floor. He actually found the chip, and he went to Peter Jackson and said, "Do you have any super glue? I'll just glue it back in, and we can continue the shoot."
Oh my
Viggo
God.
Mortensen
What a fucking champion.
I know, he's a badass.
badass. By the way, wait till you get to Two Towers. We've got
Oh yeah.
Jackson said, no. We will send it to the dentist. He got sent to the dentist, went back the afternoon because the shot was in the morning, came back in the afternoon after everything was fixed, and he just continued on. So full on badassery. Liv Tyler sliced her thigh in the scene where she yells at the ring wraiths and then brings down the entire waterfall on them.
Oh, she speaks to the water. Yep.
Yeah. So she managed to get the sword out and slice her own thigh.
Oh god,
Um,
that must have
yeah.
hurt.
Orlando Bloom did most of his work throughout the filming. It's some like a lot of writing stuff he did by himself, but he managed to fall and crack a rib. Ian McKellen, because they had a they had in the Hobbiton in the inside the Bilbo's
House.
dormitory, I would
The
say,
house, yeah.
or the house. They had a house that makes him look regular, and have another house that make Gandalf look too big. So in the house where he's a little bit too big, there's a shot where he goes backwards. He kind of runs into this chandelier, and then he turns and hits his head,
His head. Yeah.
bumps his head. That's a real bump.
Yeah.
And Peter Jackson was like really surprised that he sort of acted through the pain, and he just kept it in. But that's a real bump on the head. And at the end of the movie, where Samwise is running towards Frodo in the
Okay.
in the
We're gonna talk about that and how fucking dumb that is when we get to that scene.
the thing with it, so Sean Astin, and it's reported by all the people who played the hobbits because they were all close together, but he was very safety oriented throughout the shoot. So
Also, side note, fuck Pippin.
he was very safety aware throughout the shoot. And he's like, he helped like do like bring in helicopters and make sure everybody has their safety protocol. He wanted people to check the water banks to make sure there's no like jagged rocks and stuff. So they actually had people with scuba gear looking towards the place where he should have run into. And of course, he did the shot, ran into the water, and sliced his foot. So much so that he had to be lifted off for a hospital check and some stitches
Oh.
in his like his foot.
So while he was
Really
getting airlifted up, did everybody go, Rudy, Rudy?
Shut up.
Aw. Now I have the Rudy music's playing in my head.
The Bilbo cake actually had 111 candles on top of it, but it wasn't a real cake. It was a styrofoam cake. And by the end of the shoot, it was fully melted. We talked about the forced perspective, but we'll talk about it again. Elijah Wood, when he jumped off to the Buckleberry Ferry, in one of the shots, he actually overshot and fell into the water, and everybody had a good laugh. And by the way, Mary, so Dominic Monaghan, when he did his run in one of the takes, he got a splinter, and he thought it was just this big, massive splinter, and when the people came out to pull it out, it was just this tiny little thing. But he cried like a baby, apparently.
Meanwhile, Viggo's like, yeah, and it's just super glue. Come on,
Yeah, super glue, exactly.
back to work.
Overall, during the entire 16 months of all three movies, the script was changed almost daily. Like almost daily. So much so that in the Elrond Council, they shot it in the morning, and Sean Bean had that spiel, that speech that he has. He had a paper lying on his lap, and he was reading it and performing it as he was doing it, and that's the take that they took for the movie. Yeah. What else? Oh, that's right. The first time they had to do the sort of snow when they leave Moria for the first time after Gandalf was dead. By the way, that's the first time they do sort of mourning over Gandalf.
Yeah.
They still haven't met Ian McKellen yet. They haven't shot any Gandalf shots yet. So they were mourning a person that they've never met before. And they haven't even seen him with the pointy hat. So it's just off memory.
called acting.
Called acting. So they went up there with some helicopters, and Sean Bean hates flying. Hates it. They went up
Well,
there
you know
first
why.
day. Wait, you'll tell me why. Went up there the first day, and he was very like green. And Viggo asked him, "What's wrong?" He's telling, it's like I don't know how I'm going to get back down. He went back down the same day. The next day, he was like, I'm just gonna ride as far as I can with a car, and then I'm just gonna walk. So he started 2 hours earlier, and people who were flying in with the helicopter actually seen him do the hike towards the location where they shot the thing, and then he walked back. That's it for you. Why is he so afraid of flying?
Well, because Sean Bean knows how every one of his characters dies. He's like, well, maybe art imitates life.
Sean Bean said from all his death scenes throughout the movie, the most fun and the best death scene was in Fellowship of the
The
Ring.
ring. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's because he went down as a hero, basically.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he said he was the thing is he said he was the scene itself to shoot was so surreal because he was lying there. They shot him with Viggo kind of in the sort of background. They did that whole emotional scene. They went to lunch, came back, and did the same scene from reverse with the camera pointing at Viggo's face just to get the completing shot.
Right.
He said it was a bit surreal to just go out to lunch and then having him dead again, doing the same death scene again. And last but not least, where is it? Never mind. We'll save it. We'll leave it at that. Oh, yes. 93 just for the Fellowship of the Ring is $93 million budget. Grossed 480 something. Just on the box office alone. So good return on New Line Cinema.
Yeah, and that doesn't include like just the massive influx of just the property itself getting this giant renaissance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of merchandise and revenue, it was, I think, there was a time that it was actually competing with Star Wars in terms of the amount of merchandise and added things. Like it, I think it still competes with Star Wars at a certain level in terms of merchandise.
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, I like the figures better. But maybe it's just, I mean, I like Star Wars too. I grew up with Star Wars before I, became, I love Lord of the Rings. But it's like, even when I see some of the action figures, I'm like, I want the action. If I'm looking at a couple of them, I'm like, I want Aragorn here. I want Samwise Gamgee. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just
You're
me.
more fantasy oriented than sci-fi oriented. You like both, but you prefer.
I like
fantasy.
both. Yeah, and that's why I think for something like if people would ask me like, "Oh, are you a Star Trek or Star Wars fan?" I'm like, I like both, but if I had sat down and had to think what was my particularly my favorite type of genre, it's probably fantasy, sci-fantasy, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think Star Wars did help me like Lord of the Rings. Let's put it that way, because I didn't grow up with the books. I didn't know they were there. I always grew up with Narnia, but I think that kind of helped me like Lord of the Rings because it's kind of like a stepping stone, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Well, then also like your favorite Final Fantasy being Final Fantasy VI makes sense that way because it's sci-fantasy. It's not.
How many times do I have to hear about Final Fantasy? How about Final Fantasy 11? How about that?
Well, that was an MMO that was so grindy. It died.
I know.
Yeah, technically.
Anyway, Paul from the chat. I can't bring. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot bring chat up because the chat feature on Restream is literally fucked.
But it was like, no, Sean Bean actually like living through Silent Hill. Yeah, that was his death because it nearly killed his career.
Yeah. I just want to mention Paul Harley, our mod in chief in the chat, did say Fran and Philippa doing work. Fran is Peter Jackson's wife, and Philippa is Philippa, not Boyd or Boyne. Is it Boyne? If I'm not mistaken, Boyne. All three of them worked on doing the rewrites over and over and over again. It was mainly Philippa and Fran that were actually doing the rewrites while Peter was physically working, trying to direct everything, trying to make sure everything is okay. So he was involved with the writing, but it was Fran and Philippa doing all the like massive works on the rewrites, making sure everything kind of fits. And they got a lot, and they did get a lot of input from the actors themselves. And when they felt comfortable with their roles, they know what to do. They went through the books. They sort of knew where their character is going. And Christopher Lee had a lot of input to give to a lot of different aspects of it, because he knew Tolkien. He knew his sort of his way of thinking. What would he do? Plus, they had Shipley. He's an author, and is he Tolkien historian, or more like a Lord of the Rings historian.
Correct.
He was there giving input as well on what they can adapt and do a little bit of a change and stay within the course of the story itself. And we'll touch upon that a little bit later. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I want to play our little game here. It is called Missing Marquee. Missing Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off, and of course, Magitech Mags will have to guess which movie this is. Mags, here we go.
Independence Day?
Independence Day is correct.
I know the actor to the right, but that one I'm not familiar with.
It is Dustin Hoffman. And it is Robert Redford.
Yep. I don't know this poster at all.
Okay, let's turn to the chat. I'm looking at the chat here.
I'm sorry. I knew it was Robert Redford, but I did
no, you're okay. You're okay.
You're good.
I've never seen this poster. That's why I'm like, okay.
It's a sneaky one.
It is, of course, All the President's Men. It's about Deep Throat, but not that deep throat. It's the guy who leaked the Nixon tapes.
Is this like a Jumanji one?
Not a Jumanji one, no.
Kong?
It's not Kong.
I don't want to say it.
But it is Congo.
Oh, Congo.
Congo. Yeah.
Oh Lord. I see Buffy.
One of the first
Buffy.
films that teased a girl-on-girl kiss.
It had a girl-on-girl kiss, but not the one you think.
Y'all, I'm just gonna say this.
I'm not good. Trailer.
I'm not good with posters or equivalencies.
It's fine.
Dempsey's got it.
That's why we've got Dempsey here. Cruel Intentions.
Oh man.
This is a new movie.
Now, this one you probably have not seen because not a lot of people saw it.
I mean, it's got Stallone, and I think that's don't tell me. Oh.
He was the governor of California.
Yeah. It's Stallone,
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh,
Arnold.
This.
Don't worry, if you haven't seen this, I wouldn't be surprised. This one, very few people saw.
It's surprisingly good.
It is.
Out of I think they made 3. I can't believe they made 3, but and it's called Oh My Feelings.
Was it The Breakout or
not The Breakout, but
because it looks like prison uniforms.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's about breaking out of a prison. That's the whole film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of type of Stallone movies, but I don't know this. Like this one is not familiar to me at all.
It is called Escape
Escape
Plan. That
Plan.
was surprisingly quiet, but okay.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, it was my favorite Miyazaki film.
Oh, it's a Studio Ghibli, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Oh no, I don't.
It's so weird that you can like see a picture and you can tell it's Studio Ghibli, but
Yeah.
you can't tell the name of the movie.
Howl's Moving Castle.
It is
Yeah.
Moving Castle.
Okay, at least I got
Good
that.
one.
Oh, I know this one. Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan is correct.
Hmm. Bruce Willis.
Yes.
And
Very young Bruce Willis.
Very young Bruce Willis. He did this after Die Hard.
yep. And homie, don't play that.
Yes. It is called,
It's
thank you,
David Wayans.
Dempsey, The Last
Last
Boy
Boy
Scout,
Scout.
a Tony Scott movie.
Great movie.
Love that movie.
Come on, it's right there, Meth. It's in the stands.
Waterboy.
Waterboy. Correct.
It's a Waterboy. Yeah,
God, this movie's so
I don't
good.
know this one. I don't recognize
movie's-
any of these people.
Oh, this movie's so good.
You know what's weird? I saw this movie this week. It is
It's so
horrendously good.
It's so good. That's Kelly McDonald.
You
That and
recognize
one
this
of them,
dude, right?
one of them was a Jedi.
Yeah, this guy was a Jedi, and this guy was a hacker.
Yeah. It's already been said, but it's
Maybe it's
transpired.
just the way that they're like they're posing there and like the coloration and everything. It's just it looks. I don't know. I don't recognize these people.
Well, they were so much younger, and this film is all about heroin. So
Yeah,
yeah.
this one is Ewan McGregor, and this one is Johnny Lee Miller. He was married to at one point. He was married to Angelina Jolie.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That was
also he
Ewan
played in a
McGregor.
movie
Man,
called
he looks completely different.
Yeah, he was a baby McGregor then.
He was a he wasn't a wee. He was a wee McGregor.
Yes.
Very wee McGregor. All
Well,
right.
and there's a scene about a baby in that film too, which
Oh, I hate that fucking scene.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I'm a woman here. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
It's terrible.
Okay.
I have to say this.
It's a good movie though.
Very disturbing. And I can't believe I actually watched that in the theater. Somebody dragged me into that thing. Anyway,
hey, it's your wall. Wait.
yes, look, it's my wall on screen. So I have this picture on, but because sort of the way they did the movie, and I can't believe we're already an hour in and we haven't even touched a 4.5-hour movie. The really important thing in this one is the intro, because there is no intro in the book. You just go into the first scene in the movie, which is basically Frodo and Gandalf kind of meeting together. But what they did here is set the tone, because what they did is people who haven't read the book need a little bit of background of what's going on. And the most important thing that you need to know is, what is this ring? Why is this ring so important? And who is really the Lord of the Rings? So it describes who made the rings. So it sets up Sauron. It sets up why it was so dangerous, why it was so important that this ring should be destroyed. What was the cost of just getting him to lose the ring? Not even destroy it, just lose the ring. So all of that is set up so we'll know sort of the chain of events that led to the fact that Bilbo has that ring.
What's great too is also the pacing in this, which I think kind of gets lost in the Hobbit series, which, let's be frank, The Hobbit should have been 2 movies at best. Should not have been 3 movies.
Just the one, to me.
Yeah.
I mean, at best, because they padded so much in it. The pacing is well done with this, because again, I agree with you. The way that they actually explain the entire the forging of the rings, what it actually does mean, and the fact that how Isildur at the beginning actually does turn against humanity and does end up dying and losing the ring. It makes it so like the power of the ring is this omnipresent threat, even though the big bad is technically dead.
And it's not like that, but it's its own villain basically.
Yes, correct.
It's like a character. I mean, granted, it's it is in a way its own character because it wants to go back home to its master, but it's such a threat that it's like you don't think about these things like, oh, a ring being a threat. No, but the way they built it up is very well done to how even if it's like a Midas touch situation or something, if you touch it, then it turns everything else around you and yourself into some sort of
Correct.
corrupted state. So it's kind of like the it's like the apple in the Garden of Eve. The beginning, the garden in Genesis.
I mean,
It's kind of like don't touch it, and if you do touch it, everything will turn into corruption.
oh,
So
like it's something. It's like that. The same kind of can be said with Pandora's box. It's the same way,
yes,
like when she opens up and releases evil into the world, but also gave knowledge to men.
yeah,
So it's like you have this devil, and what I like again another series that kind of goes off this whole idea of corruption. Like I think the entire concept of Warhammer going into this, where again you may go in with the most noble of intentions, like I just want a little bit more power in order to accomplish my goal, and I'll take a little bit more power, and it takes from you. That's
hmm
what the ring does. So
it's temptation. It's like
Mhm.
a yeah,
It's temptation, it's addiction to drugs, it's all those subtle motifs that are in Tolkien's work, and
power.
yeah,
it is sort of he takes what he does, and it's very very special in the books, but it is translating into the movie those motifs of criticisms about people's affinity to addictive things. It's not
hmm
necessarily drugs, but it could be like tobacco or the leaf, which is basically marijuana.
I mean, come on, let's be fair.
Yeah,
All the hobbits, they're fucking drunk stoners.
correct.
But
That's why they're
I
hippies.
think during Tolkien's time, especially when he was in the war and everything, I think opium was like the
Yes,
Correct.
major
like I
Yes.
said,
drug back in the day. Yeah.
that's why I said it's sort of addictive things, addiction to drugs, addictive to anything basically, which is harmful if sort of overly misused. Let's just say that. Okay, I'm being very careful here, but yeah,
Yeah.
sort of the motifs of being addicted to things, also the sort of the difference between super industry and nature, sort of that dichotomy between the two, not in the sort of hippie Greenpeace kind of a way, but in sort of being more conservative of nature, or appreciating nature as opposed to the sort of industrial machine and
Yeah.
on all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's not environmentalism, it's more like being a good steward. Um,
Yes.
Yes,
uh,
I would say so very much.
and
Also, sorry.
it's like he's trying to portray the seven deadly sins as well as the seven
Yes.
virtues,
Yes. Mhm.
and you can see the dichotomy of what is falling into the sin part of stuff like pride, gluttony, temptation to power and
Yeah.
everything, and then
Sloth. Yeah, and wrath.
you have like I know further down the road we're going to be talking about it, but how Aragorn refuses that temptation. So
Yeah.
all of these major little motifs and themes of everybody can fall for it and he can be tempted, but his fortitude and his belief and his faith basically in this world helped him to stop the temptation. So and he's far stronger. So
Magic.
I'm
Thank you for not
I'm gonna move
being the
things
only one
forward.
who gets the Jesus motif for Aragorn. Like it's like
well,
it's a
not just
little less than subtle.
it's not only that, but I mean he is he has that motif, but it's he's not as Jesus like. He is, I mean he does fall. It's kind of like I would say he's more He's more like what is Jesus's favorite apostle? Saint John.
Peter?
I think it's
I
Saint
have
John.
no idea.
Saint he loves Peter, but John is the one that took care of Mary. He said, mother, this is your son. John, this is your mother, when he was dying on the cross. But anyway, so John, for me, it would be more like an Aragorn. Probably he's been tempted, but he never falls into sin. Whereas Peter denied Christ, kind of that sort of business. But anyway, I don't mean to turn into a Jesus thing. It's just more like, I don't know. I think of symbolism and all of this stuff and motifs, and I love it.
I would say this: if you happen to not know about Tolkien, he was very Catholic in his upbringing. He was very Christian. He derived a lot of the fantasy, which was like how Christianity and fantasy kind of fall in together. No, he took the motifs of Christianity and he just superimposed it on mythical creatures, elves, dwarves, humans, hobbits. All of those are aspects of it's human experience, I would say.
Yeah.
And those things got sort of superimposed with a mythical, not mythical, but sort of a mythos that should be, and he mentioned this, a mythos that England or the British people don't even have. Sort of a Nordic mythology, but for British people.
Yeah, all they had was basically the
Arthurian legends,
yeah,
which actually were more Norman, but that's a whole other topic of conversation.
but you're right, and that I think wasn't it Tolkien that didn't like allegory, or was it was it C.S. Lewis? I couldn't tell.
C.S. Lewis hates allegories.
He hates
allegories. Tolkien was all about them.
and wasn't Tolkien? Didn't he tell like Lewis saying like, dude, not. I'm paraphrasing, but dude, bro, your stories are allegory. I mean, if you read the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I mean, there's a real confession scene going on there. So, anyway, but yeah, no, it's just amazing, and of course, Tolkien also applied his belief system, his faith into the story, but it wasn't overtly used a lot. He just used what he understood. And of course, his own experiences. I mean, that's why he was able to write the battle scenes, because he understood the feelings and the not just the emotions, but also the process of what war is like. And he was able to implement his experience with all of his life, basically, into the story.
Yes. It's so wild because Tolkien was a soldier in World War I, which was horrific.
Yep.
Like all war, but generally speaking, it was a particularly horrific way of battling.
Well, it was the first time when they actually had mechanized warfare against, again, people that were utilizing still cavalry. Where like, yes, cavalry running against gun lines. What's gonna happen?
And not only that, but still, they're still doing like 1800 type, like formation type stuff.
Yes.
I mean, they weren't used to this sort of line of fighting.
Well, trench warfare was a big thing. Chemical warfare. They had not actually had any strict guidelines against what could be perceived against war crimes yet. So mustard gas.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to touch upon two things in this because you've got the ring and also you got the feet. They made 1,600 pairs of ears and feet for the shoot.
I would also say, Meth, you might want to change it. Otherwise, this is going to become an OnlyFans channel.
And I mean, it's only Hobbit feet.
Only feet.
But you can see the perspective. I love the perspective here.
The forced perspective, yeah.
Yeah, the forced perspective, how the ring, of course, hobbits are supposed to be smaller and everything, but like the ring is large and in charge here. The way it looks, it's just amazing.
And also, what's fantastic too is the way that Peter Jackson went back and it was able to cut back where you actually can see Gandalf in the reflection in the ring on the back instead of the camera angle.
Correct.
It's
Because at
so
first
well
there
done.
was a camera there.
Yeah.
And by the way, like I said, 1,600 pairs of feet and ears. The problem with the feet is that they were worn down a lot. So a lot of them got shredded and not shredded, but they were torn. The thing is, every time they had a torn pair of feet for the hobbits, they shredded them in order for them not to become a memorabilia. So they already thought, we're going to have to sell a lot of these down the line. We don't want anybody from set to sell them like on the black market. That's one thing. The other thing, and this especially for this particular scene, when this is the scene where Bilbo flips over his hand and leaves the ring there. Once it fell in this shot, it sort of like it sticks to the floor. They actually used a magnet, so the ring would
immediately to hit. Yeah,
it would just hit and just stay there, to give the ring sort of a weight that it doesn't actually have, but it does have it in the storyline.
So in so many ways, it has literal gravitas as well as important.
Exactly.
I will have to say too, I was laughing to myself because I'm thinking, oh, the poor best boy was trying to run away with those fake feet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a mint off these.
So the thing is this: once Bilbo leaves after he got the party, he vanishes, and Gandalf kind of catches him over and kind of forces him to leave. So he takes his leave, goes away, and as Frodo kind of looks out, picks up the ring, it's like, what is this? It's like, okay, keep it hidden, keep it safe. He goes out on this trip. Now, in the movie, even in the theatrical cut and even in the extended cut, Gandalf goes away and then kind of comes back. And in the book 17 years have passed, but for the movie itself, they cut all that out. So it kind of looks like he was gone for about a month, maybe a few weeks. So he goes away and immediately comes back. So all that research that he did to find out where the ring comes from, that's 17 years.
Oh, so Frodo was there alone with the ring for that many years?
And then after Gandalf tells him to pack up and leave, it takes a few months before he actually picks up everything and starts on his journey. So he's been with the ring and in the presence of the ring for many years. It just in the movie, it just kind of passes through.
Well, it's hard to have that passage of time in the movie too. If they ever added like all that passage, like more passage of time, because in the books, of course, it's it's months and months and months and months of traveling. It's in the movie, it would literally probably take about 3 days from beginning to end to be able to watch these things. So it is hard. I mean, there is probably a way to do it, maybe like a narration a little bit, of like talking about passage of time, but in a way, maybe just they thought that wasn't necessary as far as moving the story forward. And you don't want to get rid of the pacing either.
I think in a way though, if they were to add some kind of like, I don't want to put the whole the whole sponge 12 years later kind of thing, but something that would show a little bit of the passage time to show that Frodo was immediately like resistant to the temptations of the ring, full stop at the beginning.
Right.
That would have been a little bit better than than just like, oh, by the way, hey, we gotta go because they're gonna kill you like now.
Yeah, because then it would at least I guess they had to do the sense of urgency too to get the story
of course
rolling along.
And the thing is this: one of the criticisms, even back in the day and until this day, is why is Tom Bombadil not a part of the movie? Tom Bombadil is a character in the movie where
Yeah.
Sam and Frodo meet along the way. I think they meet him before they team up with Merry and Pippin as well. On the way out to the Shire, and all he gives you is sort of like information about the ring and how powerful and how insanely evil it is. But if you cut that away and you take those pieces of information and plant them throughout the storyline, they found that they could just skip over Tom Bombadil and not have him in,
Yeah.
which saves them quite a bit of time. And all that travel throughout the Shire, that's a lot of episodes until they meet actually Pippin and Merry, and then literally start to set way towards Bree.
Yeah.
Now, the first day of shooting is very, very special because it has sort of a weird kind of context. The first day of shooting was actually this bit. Not the Nazgul wasn't there when they shot this. It was just them under that little,
Well, they
little
made that.
flare.
I think they made that route basically to give
Yes,
that
Yeah.
look.
they made that specific route, that special alcove, but it is situated on a road not really far away from the studios. It's just outside of town, apparently. It was just very convenient for them to do that because Ian McKellen wasn't there, Viggo wasn't there. He wasn't even hired by this point. Orlando wasn't there. It's just the hobbits there. Now, why is this particular shot very, very important? Because in 1979, there was an animated movie of
Oh,
Lord
yeah.
of
Yep.
the Rings.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this particular shot is a shot for shot from the 1979 animated movie.
Mhm.
Peter Jackson loved it so much he included it in this movie.
So it's like an
very
homage, basically.
iconic. Yes, very iconic. A homage to the old style, to the old way. But yeah, it's sort of that first. It's kind of the first day of shooting. It's the first thing that they shoot. Again, the guy isn't really there. It's sort of a half and half composite shot. But yeah, it's a cool little way of doing things, and it's very Peter Jackson of him to give a little bit of homages to either sort of full on sentences from the book itself, sort of inserted in the screenplay,
Mhm.
or full on shots that he took from other places and sort of implanted it in the movie. All right. Bree. And sort of the first time Frodo actually uses the ring. So
So
they're
one
in
of
Bree.
one of the other fun things too that they did kind of include there was also which I really found very well done, was just they were already doing just setups for all of the different races already, where they were already showing how during the one bit where Samwise and Frodo see the marching of the elves going to the boats
Yeah.
already, as if they're already letting the world being placed, letting them know that, hey, one of the major races, probably one of, if not the most powerful of the races, is just getting out.
Yeah, but that's the extended cut. They
Okay.
Yeah.
sort of mention, like I said, it's sort of things that were in the book somewhere else. They just had to implant it, and what it did was sort of got rid of pages that they couldn't sort of work through into the script. And by the way, and that's throughout the Fellowship and the other two
Other
books,
films,
where
yeah.
in the Fellowship it's sort of like all of the Fellowship, apart from a few little places. In the other two movies, there are some moments where they're literally taking chapters from one, putting it in the other, and then moving chapters all over the place. In Fellowship is mostly the Fellowship of the Ring, apart from a few scenes, basically.
And it's at least at least with that, because we always talk about, especially with storytelling today, there's no sense of urgency or understanding of that sense of urgency of that kind of that fear factor of evil is coming, and how are our heroes going to get to the finish line to destroy that evil? But then I guess when they had to implement that scene of the elves leaving, it's kind of signaling to the audience that something's not right.
Terribly wrong.
Why are these earthreal, very, kind of beyond our understanding kind of thing? Why are these beautiful looking creatures leaving? Like, beauty is leaving. That's basically what that basically means, and it gives an idea to the audience that something's wrong. It's like little hints and pieces like that is really helpful for the audience to understand something's wrong.
Well, that in so many ways, again, Tolkien was so great at trying to use metaphor and allegories. 'Cause
Right.
it came with the elves leaving is again kind of the his disillusionment after what he experienced during the First World War.
Yep.
Was that it was the loss
Your
of
innocence is
innocence in
gone.
the
Yep.
world. It
Yeah.
has left now. Yeah. So
And not only that, we can touch upon. We did talk about Christopher Lee, but
mhm.
when it comes
God,
to
can you just say how great he was in this film as Saruman?
oh
Like
yeah,
Gosh.
the
oh
So
man
commanding.
he controls every scene that he's in, and Ian McKellen, like, he's a fantastic actor, but compared to Christopher Lee and the gravitas that he has in the role of Saruman is just amazing.
I kind of skipped over the fact that Gandalf is going to Saruman for advice after he tells
Yeah.
Frodo to start leaving towards Rivendell, and then he finds out his friend, we'll call him. So,
Friend and close mentor,
not
Sure.
basically.
yeah, not to go in too much into the lore, but the wizards are sort of immortal beings
Things.
themselves. They
Mhm.
came from the same place as the elves, Aman. They were created by by
They're
Uh,
Ilúvatar.
basically they have like an
God.
angelic line or something like that, or some.
They
They're
are a sort of I can't remember the exact name, but uh, they are the same beings as Sauron, which
Mm.
was a
Yeah.
lieutenant of Morgoth. Morgoth was
Morgoth.
a
Yeah.
celestial being, was a sort of a god, and they are sort of the between gods and elves, somewhere in that vicinity. At the name, somebody in chat will probably know, but
I want to
yes.
say for some reason, is it Ishtar? No, I'm thinking of something
No,
else.
but the thing is, they were sent in the Third Age. So once the ring, we see the War of the Ring, where Sauron loses the ring. That's kind of the start of the Third Age. That's where they were sent to Earth, to Middle Earth, to Rome. So that you had the blue wizards, you had Radagast, the brown wizard, Mithrandir, the gray wizard, which is Gandalf, and Saruman, the white wizard. Think there were one, two, three, seven. I forget. I forget.
Wasn't Bombadil one of them too?
No, Bombadil was he's a completely different creature altogether.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
full on different creation, but he is also an immortal being, just not.
So I thought he was also like somewhat in their power scaling, but just like below them or part of them or something.
Yes
But
and no. A Maiar. That's it. Paul already had it. A Maiar is the sort of Sauron and the wizards. They're sort of in between creatures, not really angelical, not really gods, but very powerful and very immortal.
let's get back
So
to one scene where I can just first start saying for the first time, and I'm going to say this multiple times: "Fuck Pippin, he's an asshole."
He causes
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
I
of
know Frodo
mischief.
Baggins. He's right over there. Fuck you, Pippin.
Yeah. In Bree, the first time it was like, Pippin is up to no good, and it's throughout the movies.
I do love to say he pops
Slowly
when
turn
they
into
bring
things.
something like it comes in pints. I'm getting one.
Yes, a really fun scene, but yes, the fact that they were sitting at a table, everyone around them were real, but because of forced perspective, the table was made bigger, and they were
Yeah.
sitting on chairs that were bigger than them. Sort of like if you ever seen that famous shot where Shaquille O'Neal is sitting at like on sort of a director's chair, but the director's chair is like 10 times bigger than him, so he looks small. That's how they did it in that pub, and all of the utensils are bigger for a reason. That's why the pint thing actually went in as a rewrite.
Well, have you say like, well, wait, Johnny Depp would just call that a mega pint. But anyway,
A pint of coffee.
I was also going to say too, the fact that you mentioned Shaquille O'Neal, they actually use forced perspective in Kazam
Yes.
to make him look small.
Yes.
God, I hate myself for doing that.
So we have our first after Bree. We have our first encounter after kind of Aragorn takes the hobbits away. We have the meeting at Amon Sul where
well, I know we had breakfast, but what about second breakfast? And what about
Yes,
lunch? And what about first tea?
by the way, when Pippin said that and he got hit with apples, that's Viggo Mortensen throwing apples at him. And they had to do
I didn't even like your character.
And they had to do 12 takes of that. And Billy Boyd said that Viggo Mortensen had just a little bit too much fun throwing.
I love the fact too that they all got along so much. Like this is literally a bonding experience, because I mean, doing all 3 movies back to back to back. I mean, you're literally living together. Like that is you're going, I mean, in a way you're going through your own hell. I mean, all these injuries and everything else, it's kind of like this is a bonding experience for them. And I think as a side note, I think they all got themselves a Tolkien tattoo on one of their wrists to mark.
All but one. John Rhys Davis didn't get a tattoo because he didn't want to.
But I think that's a really cool concept.
But what's also really cool too is all of them have worked together in projects.
Yep.
With each other after this.
Yes.
Most notably, Elijah Wood got every single one of them jobs in his show, Wilfred. If you've never seen it before, great show. It's based off of actually an Australian series, and actually the guy who plays Wilfred, who's a dog. Yeah. It's a whole thing about he's basically Elijah Wood's character is kind of a schizophrenic, and he sees this dog as a person in a dog costume. That's the premise of the show. Yeah. Right. It's a great show. It's a great comedy. But he got every single person that was one of the hobbits, and then several of the other people, especially the lead, or I can't remember who played him, but he got him actually as one of the main antagonists in one of the episodes of Wilfred.
All right. So we have that encounter in Amon Sul, and then we kind of get introduced to Arwen, which she is in the book, but her role is very, very, very minimal. But what they do is sort of insert a love story between an elvish woman, and a human male. A story that, if you read the Silmarillion, is the love story between Beren and Luthien. Beren was a human, Luthien was the elvish woman. It's a story that Tolkien, of all the love stories that he created, was his favorite. And this was Peter Jackson homage to that story without it actually being that story. But what they did is he wanted Aragorn to have sort of a traditional love story that people can actually relate to. Otherwise, I think it's I don't remember the name of the guy, but if you've seen Two Towers, it's the same guy who came to their rescue in Helm's Deep, who got killed. That character is the one who actually got the Athalas, all that stuff that happens with Arwen. He's the one that did it in the book, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read the book in about Glorfindel. Glorfindel.
Gryffindor.
Not
See,
Gryffindor.
this is why Paul is like the best mod.
he can correct our the gaps in the lore. So.
Yeah.
The
Even the one who is the token nerd over here. Come on, Meph.
Hey, dude, there's so much. There's so much.
I know. What I found really, really great too is I think, Peter Jackson utilizing this story to not only as an homage to that, but also kind of to create a reason as to why a subtle story behind the reason why Aragorn is kind of shirking his duties in a way and not becoming, taking the rightful place as the king.
It kind of helps. It kind of helps with. I mean, I think in the books he's accepting of it. Of course, I can be corrected, but I think in the movie they had to make it seem like what you were saying. Out of my feelings, we have to be. We as the audience have to be able to. Not that we couldn't connect to the characters in the books themselves, but you're translating a massive book series into a movie, and that's completely different audience. So you
Correct,
have to allow the audience to move on that heroic journey with a character who, kind of like you need to have a starting point with them in a way. And that
Mhm.
I think the way they did it was really, really well done, and being respectful to the character itself. But yeah, I think he was already, of course, chat will correct me if I'm wrong, but we had to be able to relate to somebody like Aragorn, a reluctant type who realizes eventually he needs to take his place and the people do need him. So
Paul was correcting me. It was Haldir that came to their rescue, but I think in the books it's actually the same dude. But we'll check and we'll get back to you. Anyway,
Rawr, they're gonna fight it out later.
nerd fight.
If I do mistakes, I will correct myself. And yeah, there's so many different characters that are interconnected. Some of them are different in the books, but they perform kind of the same role. Please, it's a bit much, and there's so many. The one thing I wanted to talk about Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler has sort of a high voice. She had to deepen her voice
Yep.
in order to have Arwen's kind of intonation and sort of
Her
regalness,
timbre.
I would say. Shut up. So much so that when Steven Tyler saw the movie, he thought she was dubbed
Yep.
in the movie. It's like, and she said, and I quote, "Dad, I'm an actress. I can do that."
she did. It's so funny because she was in oh gosh, what's that movie? Where they had to blow the meteor up. God.
Armageddon?
Armageddon.
Yeah.
When she was in that movie, like seeing that movie and then seeing Lord of the Rings, it's like, whoa, it's a completely different type of person because she just doesn't come across as something like angelic like an Arwen. But the way they did her for her character is just phenomenal. And definitely, rose my respect. I mean, it's not like I didn't respect her before, but it, a lot of these actors, the way they performed in this movie, like their respect meter was like risen to a different type of height. And especially with people that you just don't even think that they would belong in a Lord of the Rings movie, like Liv Tyler in Lord of the Rings. What is that?
Astin.
But then it's like,
Yeah.
but then it's like, wow, you see it afterwards and go, okay. Never mind.
Well, that and also like Elijah Wood had done anything for years.
Yep.
In between, but
before
he was cast here.
But he was
I mean, he did North.
Yeah.
He did his audition dressed up as a hot, like he dressed himself up because he wanted the role.
Yeah.
Isn't that like I love that. I just love that little bit. It's like
Peter Jackson actually wanted the 4 hobbits to be all of them to be British. But Sean Astin did a great job reading for the role. Elijah Wood did a great job reading for the role. They just brought them a sort of a language coach to just train them to speak with a somewhat of an
There's a
English.
little bit of a lilt, a little bit of an accent there, but I actually really appreciated that more about that is the fact that it wasn't just homogenized, just British accents across the board, because
Yeah.
that's a pratfall that so many as a fan of high fantasy, Magitech and Mephisto, when you watch films, you're assuming that is when you watch that pseudo high fantasy, like, okay, I'm gonna hear a British accent. I know it from
Yep.
every single character, because apparently no one else has any kind of lilt or any kind of other kind of intonation in their speech.
Like,
Yeah.
like, come on, there's got to be some, you're talking about different races here. They have to have different speech patterns.
Yeah,
And
we're going
different,
again. We're going across not only like an entire continent span here. I mean,
I mean,
exactly.
to be fair, one of the things that that Jackson told Sean Bean is speak in your native accent. He's from the north of England, and they have
Yeah.
that sort of a twang, that the different twang from the south. So Legolas, which is Orlando Bloom, who is a more of a southern guy, a London guy, has a different accent from Sean Bean, who is a northerner in Britain itself.
Are you
But
saying one
not
does
only
not
that,
simply have the same British accent?
yes, exactly, and the fact that Viggo, who's Danish, has a different accent from them, it also not only puts them with different races, but also puts them in different places. Gondor is different from Arnor, right? It's
And it's
two
different from
different places
Rohan.
of
Yep.
the continent
Yeah.
itself. So it would seem like they would have different accents. By the
Yeah.
way, Faramir also has a more of a northern accent.
Well,
which
isn't
is
like
weird because
Legolas?
their dad speaks with a more southern accent, but
Yeah.
Well, Legolas is supposed to be a woodland elf, so it'd be different from a Rivendell elf. So
yes,
it's kind of like that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
yes, and Hugo Weaving has a different accent from
Accent,
Orlando
yeah.
Bloom in terms of British accent, because Hugo Weaving is Australian, and they all suck. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, that's not
I'm
true.
kidding. I'm kidding. All right,
We love our Aussies, even
we-
though your entire
of course
continent's trying to kill you.
of course.
One thing I
Hail
was just going to touch
Gleeman.
on real quick is the stabbing with the ring wraith, or the fact that he does utilize the ring and he does get stabbed, which I love the fact that they're showing already that even though the ring is powerful, it does have this outrageous drawback where you can still be injured, in fact, even killed and brought forth to another side.
Go
And
ahead.
not only that, but you're now you're almost like a beacon of light to the enemy.
To them, yes, correct,
y-
yeah.
So
Again, for like Paul, you're like a psyker in the warp.
Stop it. I'm not starting a 40K fucking discussion here. Stop. One thing before we do our second game of the night. That whole council scene in the book is not really that. It's sort of like everybody splits off, and there's a moment where Frodo said, "I'll take it." He already decided but that point in the book, he already decided to go on that journey. Just everybody's sort of arguing in different rooms. What they did was have that sort of bring everybody together just in order to show the power of the ring and how it kind of messes with people.
Yeah,
without
tempts and corrupts.
being-
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep.
without actually messing with people. You could just see their reactions and why they're turning on each other to emphasize how powerful and evil it is.
Yes.
And it actually makes that sort of a punch of getting that fellowship together to sort of be a counterbalance in terms of getting that ring to Mordor and actually getting it destroyed. And you need that sort of a union between dwarf, elf, and human, and between humans to actually be a force of good to counterbalance the force of evil.
Evil.
And not only
Which,
that, but
sorry.
We have another reluctant hero in Frodo in that scene, where he realizes how he already knew, but it's like at that moment because it is sort of the ring is chanting and everything. At that moment, he realizes how powerful it is, and he sees everybody around him being affected, and it's kind of like he realizes that they can't do it, um, and that he would have to do it, because if he's seeing it there, then he knows that they will be affected, and so it's like the reality check of someone's got to take it, and he might as well be the one to do it,
And the
because
weird part is,
if he saw it and nobody else did, then that's a problem.
and the weird part is, Peter Jackson said, "Well, it helped us just skip over 3 episodes in the book."
Yeah. What's
It was
also
easier to
fantastic about
write
it.
that council and just skip over. But yeah, it gives it a much bigger punch in terms of sort of meaning and effectiveness to what is that fellowship that kind of exists now.
Yeah. What's also great is, too, is just as a quick aside, right before that too, you have the conversation of Boromir and Aragorn where they see the shards of Narsil, and then
Yes.
they're like the explanation of who Aragorn is, like when Legolas is like, hey, you dipshit, that's your king, by the way. He should be the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, but we also have Boromir's already his already temptations by the ring, and like Frodo when he's immediately saying, "Oh no, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be the one to take it."
Yes. And
There's also that glint already of where the ring is kind of tempting him.
Yeah.
So
and you also see
it's
kind of
all
the
that this like the
fire.
foreshadowing that Peter Jackson is doing is really great.
Yeah, you also kind of
Yeah.
see the glimpses of the fire of Mordor kind
Door,
of
yeah.
flaming the sort of the high spirits that were already there. But yeah, it's a good little visual for us.
I will say too, I love the fact that they do my favorite thing, Meph.
Mm.
They say the thing.
Oh, they say the thing.
This is the fellowship.
Ring.
The ring.
I will
We'll
say
call it the Fellowship of the Ring.
I do love the fact that because I think in the books Frodo's supposed to be older or whatever, but I do like the fact
Much
that
older.
they did it is visually helpful for the audience to see somebody like, because the way they have Elijah Wood done up, he's very pure, very innocent, very unblemished type of situation. And
Yeah,
then of course
Virgin.
throughout the movies, the burden of carrying the ring like a cross um is does take its toll, and you can see that visually. So I do
Even in
appreciate
this movie
the
itself, it
yes.
kind of he looks from sort of a fresh-faced, full-cheeked into more and more of a
Rosy
Sallow and
cheeks.
yeah.
gaunt face, not really
Mhm.
thin, but gaunt face, sort of, I would say, mimicking how we would see a drug addict would say, not really somebody that has a burden, but it is a burden because
Mhm.
it's sort of a gnawing thing that is happening to not only to his psyche, but also his actual body.
His
All right.
soul, yep.
Again, just the quick, real quick setup of the mithril vest and the
Yes.
payoff. Like I'm like, I know how much
Oh,
you love
yes.
setups and payoffs. That was really well done. It was like, again, the first time you watch this, if you've never read the books, it's like, oh my god, they did kill Frodo this time. Ah,
Ah,
sneaky
all right.
Jackson.
It's time to play our second game of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1. Fight.
No prior knowledge required, Magitech Mags. Or maybe some. Screen Fighter for the uninitiated is where we take 2 movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. There's no discernible difference between the two. Both of them are good or both of them are bad. We fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with their significant other. 2 movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? If you haven't seen any of them, just say so. But we have our first pairing, Signs or Napoleon Dynamite. Mags?
I'm not a scary movie type, so it would definitely be Napoleon Dynamite.
You probably haven't seen Signs if you're saying that's a scary movie.
Scary movie.
I've always heard it's scary, so it's like I
It's-
don't want to know.
No.
It's not a horror film, but it is M. Night Shyamalan.
Shamalama Ding Dong, terrible film.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Cast your votes, ladies and gentlemen. Signs or Napoleon Dynamite. Mags, have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
A long time ago, yes.
Yeah, same. Feelings?
I mean, it
God,
was
Tina, why don't you eat your dang quesadilla?
What were you gonna say, Mags?
I mean, it's a fun movie. I mean, probably should watch it again just to see where my feelings are at. Because sometimes if you watch a movie years and years ago and you enjoyed it or whatever, but then you watch it again, you may not enjoy it or something like that years down the road.
We had a few experiences on this show as we wanted to cover a movie, and suddenly we discovered we don't like it.
It's not so good.
It's not as good as we once thought about it.
I agree with
definitely have
Paul.
a
You
rewatch.
can't go back and rewatch Signs once you know how dumb the
Oh.
premise of the movie is.
Oh yes, there is a moment where if you
Where you
watch
go,
it,
okay,
really
this is
watch it,
stupid.
you're
Oh my
like,
god,
oh no, you just ruined it for me. But yeah, it's Napoleon Dynamite for me. I really didn't like Signs, regardless of the sort of like the M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. All right, Taken or The People versus Larry Flint. This is the
Courtney Love
Steven
movie.
Spielberg Taken about
yeah.
Roswell.
Well, yeah. The People versus Larry Flint was actually Courtney Love's first film too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mags?
I have never seen any of these movies.
Okay.
Go ahead and do a reroll on that one.
We'll do a reroll, but fuck it.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Don't worry about it, Mags. It's fine. Wonder Woman 84
Oh
or
my
The
god.
Saint. This is the remake of the show The Saint, originally with
Val
Roger
Kilmer.
Moore, but this
Yeah.
movie is with Val Kilmer.
Well, I refuse to watch Wonder Woman 1984 because
Okay.
for very good reasons. I have not seen The Saints, but I have seen the original some of the original episodes of the original show.
Okay.
So I do like Val Kilmer, so I would, if I were popping it in, I would be The Saint. So
Awesome. Feelings?
She has already made the correct decision.
It's an easy choice for me. Rocky Balboa or Interceptor. I have not seen Interceptor.
I know you
ever
have
in my
not
life,
seen that.
but we've got a reroll. Oh, great.
Ooh.
Awesome. Gravity with Sandra Bullock or Rocky Balboa.
I have not seen any of them, but I do like Stallone. So, and it's a part of the Rocky series.
It is
It's
Rocky number 6.
six,
After this
technically, yeah.
Rocky, they made Creed.
Yeah.
In terms of timeline. I'm gonna pick first. It's gonna be Rocky Balboa. First of all, Gravity is very, very boring. Very boring. I've only seen it the one time. It's the one time that it annoyed me to no end. Rocky Balboa, regardless of the fact that it was made a little bit too late in terms of sort of Stallone's career,
15
is
years
a
too late. Yeah.
very, very, very good Rocky movie. Very good Rocky movie.
I'll agree with you on that one, Meth. It was kind of the redemption story of Rocky Balboa, his kind of comeback, which kind of goes through into the Creed films, which the story of Creed's son, I really didn't much care for. I was really more about Rocky just kind of rebuilding his life. That really got me into the Creed story more because I had an attachment to, Rocky. I just have to go Rocky Balboa on this one.
All
Yeah,
right.
I would have to go with that one too.
Depending on the pair, it's probably going to be our last one because we're going to go over.
We still got a little bit to
Yeah,
go.
we still got a little bit. Come on, Flick Chart, move. You know what's going to do? It's going to settle on a pair and then switch as soon as we
Switch it,
talk.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Assuming this is the pair, Cabin in the Woods. See, I
Oh,
told
there
you
it goes.
was gonna jump. All right, Get Out or Gremlins 2.
I was gonna say real quick, the one before that, holiday films, obviously National Lampoon's, but better film, Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods was such a great subversive horror comedy.
I watched it for the October project I did. I would still pick National Lampoon's. It's
Fair
just
enough.
Chevy Chase does it for me. Right.
Well, you know where my pick would be.
You know, Gremlins 2 or Get Out.
I have not seen these ones either.
You haven't seen Gremlins 2?
Wow.
No, I have not.
You
When-
haven't seen silly, sexy gremlin? The lady
By the
gremlin?
By the way,
I mean, I
Gremlins
was 2 when it came out, so obviously not.
God,
Gremlins
we're old.
2 also includes Christopher Lee
Yes.
as a very evil scientist.
Yes.
I'd probably pick Gremlins just because of that Christopher Lee being in
Okay.
it.
Feelings? Get Out.
I would
or
say
Gremlins?
just to watch a movie for fun, given the criteria, Gremlins 2. I think obviously Get Out is Jordan Peele's best film. Sorry, it's categorically his best. He should have kind of stopped there. Us was okay. Nope was, well, nope.
As the title implies.
I don't like any of Jordan Peele's movies. I didn't like Get Out. I watched Us, half of Us. Some movies are just not for me. Just like The Blackening, which I watched 10 minutes of that movie and I stopped.
I figured you would.
Some movies are just
not
made for me, and I'm fine with it. I'm literally fine with it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the trail, back on the hunt. Saruman was also on the hunt because he sent the Ravens of Dunland towards our fellowship as they set off on their merry way, which kind of prompted them to go through. Is it Karathas? Fucking name of the. It is, right?
I think so. Yeah, because they had to go to.
They wanted to go over the mountain,
Yeah.
and they couldn't because Saruman
brought the avalanche down, and they have to go to the
down or a storm that kind of caused it. So they had to go through the mines of Moria. Yeah. And we'll skip over the extended cut with the squid monster that kind of
the Kraken bit, yeah, which was like
which was, by the way, awesome.
Yeah, that bit is cool.
It was really really cool. The way that they actually they utilized some really great practical effects as well as CGI. At the time, which was really well done. Because I'm a sucker for practical effects.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, and I love the CGI in these movies just alone. It still ages well. Like that, and talking about CGI today and how terrible it is, and I'm like, here's a movie that was made in 1998 or late 90s basically, and it has all of this stuff in it, and it's amazing how they were able to make it so realistic.
Which is so odd too, Mags, because a lot of films that were done in the early 2000s that were done after this movie have horrendous CGI, but with budgets that allowed more to that specific bit. Where it's like, how did you mess it up this bad? And they did it so well.
And this is, and to be fair, this is a lesson to any filmmaker ever. Okay. What Peter Jackson was very meticulous on was storyboarding as much as he could on the pre-production. Mm-hmm. So he had certain shots already. He knew visually what he wanted to do, so people could start making the thing before it was on. Max, go ahead and do that. No problem.
Um, I was gonna just a bit there. What I really love the fact that they actually gave Gimli. Well, they actually showed that how great and wise Gandalf was. He was fallible as well by just the little riddle that he was able to. Oh, say hello and enter.
Say friend.
Friend and enter. Yeah, sorry.
One
But
of our
then from there,
one of our
but
future
Gimli.
guests, by the
Sorry.
way, feelings. One of our future, well, he's going to be here doing Two Towers and Return of the King. He was so affected from that particular moment that he finishes every single live stream that he does with always speak friend to enter. Our good
Okay.
friend Stone Loki does that for every
Oh,
single
very
stuff.
nice.
He
Very nice.
incorporates that in his sort of outro that he does. And commendable, sort of like, okay, I know where your influences lie. I understand.
Mhm.
Great, cool, like it, do it more. I love the fact that sort of it kind of inspired me to do what I do now, where I get in, finish my intro with my outro with something that affected me the most. But yeah, putting that
Yeah.
aside, of course.
So we have again the fallibility that's shown in Gandalf, but we also have Gimli showing his the fact that he is not just this stalwart dwarf when he actually breaks down and sees the corpses in the
Yes.
hall.
I mean, his wailing is just. I mean, you feel for it because I mean, can you imagine seeing your own people just completely like here? You thought it would just be a place that's alive and it's completely empty and desolate and
Yeah,
dead. Like
there's one
and
dwarf.
the setting of the setting of it all is it really helps with that emotion too.
And kind of like that's kind of why Peter Jackson emphasizes Balin when he did the Hobbit movies. Balin was just one of the crew that went out and to the Lonely Mountain and get trying to get the Arkenstone. It wasn't like a big part of it, but
Mhm.
it is the same Balin that Gimli is talking about. Now, of course, it's all in reverse, and The Hobbit came out later, but that's beside the point.
Mm-hmm.
Gimli kind of expects a warm welcome, and
Yeah,
when
it's
they
like,
enter, and it's
oh,
sort of
the ale and fresh
yeah,
chunks of meat.
and he is so shook once the goblins attack. He's like, "Oh, there's a fucking dwarf still alive in
Oh, but
Moria," and he's fucking off to battle.
and
Right?
also this is the second time I get to say fuck Pippin.
Well, and then like his look there and the fire in his eye and anger as well as oh gosh, John Rhys Davis's acting is just so good. It's just it really makes you, and he's even growling sort of. It's just like I mean his whole like his people are dead. Like how do you greet that? Like with a lot of anger. Let's just put
Well,
it that way.
and even at the end, like he seems just it's just like when Aragorn says, "Well, it's time to hunt some orcs."
Mhm.
He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he's got a good reason to do it. It's not
Yep.
just the fellowship. It's like there's
Hey,
another thing on it.
Warhammer, the original old series, taught me you don't give a dwarf a region to harbor a grudge.
no."
Yep.
Of course, as the goblins attack and they go through the mine, there's a moment there where they're surrounding them, and then we hear the real issue why Gandalf didn't really want to go through Moria, and that's the Balrog, which is they
Sorry,
underemphasize how old the Balrogs
Balrog is.
are. They are extremely old.
Were they actually creations of Morgoth?
They are the creations of Morgoth. They are
Okay.
literally sort of like, if you consider the tanks of of that era, sort of like the biggest, baddest demons before dragons were even a thing.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
didn't wasn't that also like it was Saruman almost like taunting him, going, "Oh well, they don't know about the was it the beast of shadow and flame or whatever that was
Yes, but
harboring down there in Moria."
they call it the Balrog as a singular, but there were multiple of these
Yeah, because
creatures
Balrog is
moving
like
around.
it's technically like a species, right?
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
And we get sort of the ultimate sacrifice of Gandalf, that Gandalf knows something that the other guys don't know. He is really immortal. He's not like the elves. The elves they live forever, but they can
They
die.
can die. Yeah.
Gandalf cannot die because if he dies, his spirit goes to Aman, the original place, but it can come back. He just didn't tell them because it doesn't really explain even in the book why he didn't tell them. But he kind of knew that it would take a while for him to defeat the thing. He would probably need to die and then reincarnate. But
Well, at the
And
end of like, fly, you fools!
well, and not only that, but he's also, you know, he's also going to be dealing with the pain of the fight. He's going to
yes,
be dealing with pain. So
Mhm.
it is a sacrifice because he's going to have to deal pain for a long time in order to defeat the creature and come back to the fellowship. So in a way, it is like a resurrection. He's going to have to, carry another type of cross, get beaten up. It's kind of all that thematic situations, and it's just, yeah, so he has to literally go down the chute down to hell to be able to fight the demon, basically.
basically,
Well,
yeah. But it's not, I wouldn't say you would compare that to sort of a Jesus thing,
Mm,
because it's not that kind of a resurrection.
mm,
Because Jesus
because
sacrificed
technically,
himself.
in a way that, well, technically he didn't die. That's the thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he technically didn't die for real. He was exhausted, and he had that transformation, but it's
Mhm.
not really. I never saw it as that kind of a thing. I would say so of Aragorn in the
yes.
warg fight in the Two Towers. I would say
That's
he
true.
went for that, but again, didn't really actually die.
Yeah.
But they both did sort of the sacrifice play. It was just Aragorn was a real sacrifice play that he knew he could die. Gandalf knew he couldn't die.
That's true.
Deep down within the character. Again, it's not in the books and it's not in the film as, oh, I know I can't die, so I sacrifice myself. It's
Well,
not.
but and also, to be fair, he couldn't exactly tell her like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I am this immortal being, everybody. So don't fucking worry about it. I got you." You
Yeah.
know.
And this scene here where they step out and everybody seems like they're sort of exhausted
And they're
because they're
defeated.
physically
They're very
exhausted, but
defeated, yeah.
they're very defeated. Again, they did the scene without actually meeting Ian McKellen because he wasn't there, and they had to really act in order
Yeah.
for it to be believable. Um,
Which is so great. Which makes kind of Viggo Mortensen's portrayal of Aragorn here and his pragmatism here much more believable. There, the fact that he did not have this emotional connection whatsoever to like having even met Ian McKellen yet, but
Yeah.
everyone else, especially Sean Bean here, it fucking fantastic job as
Oh,
Barahir.
yes.
It's been like his conversation with Frodo and the kind words he gives to him is like trying to build Frodo back up. And they had not met. Oh, class act. Great work.
And
yep.
it really adds to his character too. Yes, you can already tell that there's some tension and, a flawed situation and potential temptation of the ring. Certain degrees of temptation or levels of it. Whereas but he's still human. He still has a good heart, and it's a good way to establish that he's not a bad guy. He's just there's a lot of other things, much more complex things going on. So you don't really, as an audience, you're feeling this character out, and you're watching him, and it's you definitely there's something wrong, but you also
You
know
feel
that he's not
connection.
a bad guy. He's
You
not a
feel
definitive bad guy.
connection that is beyond the I just want the ring for myself.
So,
Yes,
so
something.
I
There's other
want
layers
to
of
help these people
complexity
for
there.
real.
Yeah.
He doesn't realizes how much the ring affects humans as opposed to hobbits. The
Right.
hobbits are a lot more jovial and connected to nature, and
They're more
the
innocent.
humans are
They're
more
grounded.
are more prone to seek power. Therefore, they're more easily corrupted, which harkens back to the intro that actually explains
with the sealed door.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
which is great too is with the whispers that the Galadriel does too. Well, like the ominous kind of tones that she has with Frodo before she has that conversation where Frodo even offers her the ring and she refuses the temptation of the ring. But with Boromir and the conversation Boromir has with
Boromir.
Sorry, I don't know the names.
Hey,
I'm trying to get as smart as hey, give me credit.
Come on, get
I'm
with
trying.
the program feelings. Come on.
Yeah. But Boromir and his actual fears that from what he actually describes to Aragorn, the fact that again, as you said before, Mags, like he is giving the reasons why he actually wants the ring because he's afraid that he's not good enough, and he wants to help his people.
He's afraid for his people. He's seeing their. He's a very desperate man, and desperate men can be dangerous in terms of they're not as level-headed, but he's doing it for he's not doing it for selfish reasons. He's doing it because he feels that the power of the ring will deliver his people and it into a better situation. But good intentions can be paved by poor decision. It's good intentions, but it can lead you down a horrible path.
Well, what is it? It's the old adage.
Yes. Yeah.
The road
You
to
know what I'm
hell
saying.
is
You know what I'm
paved
talking
with good
about.
intentions. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to remember like what it was saying, how the saying goes, but yeah. So it's like there's so many different level layers to the character himself that he's not a bad person. He's just he wants to help his people because they are desperate. They are fighting every day. They are under, the watchful eye of Sauron because it's right across the way, basically. So it's kind of, and he wants his people to be saved, and he wants his kingdom. He wants Gondor to be back to its height again.
Gondor to be Gondor of old, and when he says Gondor of old, he means literally outposts inside Mordor because that's when they were the most powerful. I want to touch upon something that it literally came across today when I watched something that is like beyond the stuff that you normally get. Is it's really hard to see in this picture, but if you can tell, right beside her her pupil, you see like this highlighted point, like sort of a glimmer. They actually made that specifically for Kate. It's sort of a lot of bulbs together to make sort of that glint in her eye look really big as her pupil. And they didn't do that for anybody else because they wanted Galadriel to be majestic and sort of astrally projected on the screen. Jackson said of the stars, because she is not just elvish, she is one of the oldest elvish people in Middle Earth.
She was there at the forging of the rings. Not really there, but I mean, she was alive during that period.
She was alive when the entire planet was one bit gigantic continent. Before it was just Amun and Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So she's that old. in terms of which means about 5,000 years old, something like that. Before they leave, before she gives everybody their own gifts. We do have that. I can't really catch that. Oh, there we go. I got it. The temptation moment. Sort of like, it's the same thing as you said on Boromir, where he comes from a good place. Gandalf mentions it the same thing, but at the start of the movie, I will come from a good place, but I will turn evil. And the same goes for Galadriel. And Galadriel, you can see the manifestation of what could happen if she would have taken the ring for herself. And sort of, you get that manifestation where Frodo can see how bad things can be, even for a very, very good person. And then she gets subdued because she controls that temptation and say, well, I will help you with this task. But then I'm done. I'm over. I'm going to move to the west. I'm going to move to the other side, and I will have nothing to do with Middle Earth from then on end. It will just be you guys. Sort of that way of she explains it, how the elves are. It's like, our time is done. We're done here. We're gonna move on.
Well, it's not. Elrond also mentioned that the time of the elves
They
is
all
done.
kind of do.
Yeah.
They all
What's also kind of great about that too is the fact that she also just kind of acquiesced the fact that, like, thank you for offering me this temptation and knowing the fact that I was able to break myself from it. Like, it's almost like Frodo kind of gave her a gift in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing about the gifts.
Yes.
First, love the bread joke. Still love the bread joke.
Okay.
Still do. It's still funny.
Okay. Anything else?
Mags, you know the bread joke, right?
The Lempus bread?
Yeah. Oh, it's enough to feed a grown man for an entire day. How many did you eat? I ate 3.
Oh God, yes, that scene. I mean, they're hobbits.
The
What
other
can I say?
the other gifts too. I love the fact where I just want that look on just Sean Astin's fake thing. Samwise gives her like, and I got a rope.
Yes.
I will say this. I love that Gimli asks for the lock of her hair.
Oh God, yeah. Let's go get like how the 180 turn. Like, oh God, apparently Gimli's super racist until one of them's hot.
Yeah. Now the thing is that they didn't know how, because it's in the book. He asks for a piece of her hair, one string of hair. He asked for one string of hair, and she said, "Have 3," and she gives him 3 a piece of her hair. They said they didn't know how to film that, so what they did was her leaning over, kind of whispering in his ear. And when he turns, he tells them she gave him a lock of her hair. Sort of like they solved a thing that they couldn't shoot, because a string of hair, even 3, are very, very sort of non-existent when it comes to like big film camera.
Yeah, it'll get lost.
Yeah. So he just said she gave me a lock of her hair. I want to touch upon
what did you ask for? I asked for a lock of her hair.
Yeah.
She gave me 3. It's also a little bit creepy vibes, Gimli. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, the boats. So on the boats, they were actually in a very not slow moving river. And those boats were made for, let's say, for beauty rather than functionality. So at one point, Orlando Bloom was first on the row. He was going a little bit too fast. So one of the production team literally took a hand and physically stopped the boat, which caused a lot of the water rush to come over the boat and inside the boat. So they actually sank. So his boat actually sank.
Because I would
uh,
have to imagine they would have to be built out of fiberglass.
which wasn't that funny because the guy who was in the boat was a stand-in from one of the hobbits, and he didn't know how to swim. That's a problem.
See Samwise coming up very soon.
Yeah.
Dum dum
Uh,
dum dum dum.
so they get to that shore. Of course, the Uruk-hai are, or I think it's just the orcs. No, the Uruk-hai are
Urukai, yeah.
on their
Yodakai,
trail.
yeah.
Uh, and Boromir has that conversation with not conversation, sort of like he's trying to explain Frodo what he explained to Aragorn, but the power of the ring
Yes.
affects him until a certain point where he kind of snaps out of it, and he tells Frodo he understands his sort of, oh shit, this is gonna be bad, and he tells Frodo to run away, and he's the one that plants that idea in his head to, like, okay, this fellowship thing, it's gonna corrupt everybody, and Boromir's gonna be, he's just the first inkling of what's
Well, it was Frodo. Sorry, it was Gandalf before who told Frodo, "You have to look out for enemies without and from within, and you know from whom I speak."
Yes,
Mhm.
and that thing, if I'm not mistaken, that thing is not in the book. It's sort of foreshadowing in terms of how you present it in terms of movie. So in terms of, it's sort of a setup and a payoff in sorts of Gandalf telling Frodo this and Boromir coming in sort of at the very last part to give that sort of, oh, Frodo knew it would be him
Mhm.
because we knew it would be him.
Yeah.
And what's kind of great too about it too is the way that they kind of set that up. As soon as Frodo does utilize the ring in order to escape from Boromir, that's when he snaps out of it, as if
Mhm.
like him moving into that different plane immediately takes the corruption away because he's no longer on the same kind of plane of existence, so it can't tempt him.
And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I love how Mary he realizes when Frodo is trying to run away, he's hiding on, and of course Pippin is like, come on, come on, Frodo, and Mary immediately recognizes the situation. I mean, it's not like he didn't, he's innocent too. Just like Frodo, Pippin, Sam, they all don't know, they understand the danger and the evil, but they don't know to what extent it is. And the fact that Mary looks at him and he realizes they have to let him go and they have to
Go.
protect him.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
that's I mean, he's for hobbits to realize stuff like that. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts. And then stepping forward to try to distract the Uruk-hai away from their friend. I mean, that's amazing.
That's the first kind of character growth that sort of Mary has, and he has
Yes.
sort of, he grows a little bit faster. Pippin is the last one to sort of have that realization, and it comes way in the sort of like the third movie,
Mhm.
or it's sort of middle way through the Two Towers after the attack of the ants. It kind of,
Yes.
some of it kind of gets clicked in, but he stumbles the most. That's why Feelings hates Pippin, because Pippin is the worst.
Well,
Well,
we always
sorry,
we
Max,
we
go ahead.
always know somebody like that in our life
Yeah,
who is
yeah,
just doesn't
exactly.
click as easily to reality. But anyway, go ahead, feelings. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. Well, Mev, as I told you, Pippin for this particular entire set of films is my Jonesy, and I
Yes,
fucking hate
it's your
Jonesy.
Jonesy.
I sense much anger in you.
Yes,
The Cat and Aliens is the worst. Sorry, Alien. It wasn't
Alien.
Aliens.
The thing is this. Again, I mentioned the fact that Sean Astin slices foot running into the water.
And also, hey, dipshit, you can't fucking swim.
The only problem with that scene, well, it's not a big problem, but it's a change from the books. They have that whole conversation on shore, And Frodo tells him, look, I need to do this by myself. But Sam tells him, no, Gandalf told me to watch over you. He told you to do this by yourself, but he told me to watch over you. So we either listen to him or not. And Frodo says, you're right, Sam. We'll do this together. And they get off. By the way, that's the first chapter of the Two Towers in the books. This whole
Oh, okay.
that whole ending scene where Merry and Pippin get kidnapped and Boromir gets killed, that's in the first chapter of Two Towers. Sort of that's the only kind of big change that they did switching over book to book. Like I said, in between Return of the King and the Two Towers, that's a lot more of
Shifting
switching
around.
over stories, putting it one story before the next in order to have a sort of a steady storyline. We'll deal with that when we deal with that. But
But this is a great way to end on a cliffhanger because
Yeah.
now you have the Fellowship is broken up. Frodo and Sam are going off to Mordor, and then of course Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli have to go after um, Merry and Pippin to go save them. So it's such a good introduction into the Two Towers. I mean, you're right with the chapter shifting around, but it's the way that they set it up for the next movie, I think is a good it kind of makes you really come back for more because my mom it's so funny. My mom, I remember specifically when she first watched this movie, we were watching it on the VHS tape. And we were watching it, and of course it was a theatrical cut because you couldn't it would have to be multiple VHS tapes for the extended cut. The thing with that particular scene that you showed, I remember my mom because she's long time ago, and that's was why we always my brothers and I always made fun of her. She always would fall asleep and on a movie, because we movie nights on Fridays and Saturday nights as kids growing up because it wasn't school night, whatever. But she'd fall asleep on the couch. This movie she didn't, and she immediately at the end when it had the rolling credits, she was like, "That's it." Like I mean, she's a very much like the OG Star Trek, OG Star Wars, that's her era. She saw Star Wars, not A New Hope, a Star Wars in the theater. So it's kind of like that's her era is very science fiction kind of stuff. With this movie, she stayed awake the entire time and said, "That's it? I want more? Like where is this?" So, I mean, that tells you something of how this particular movie did such a great job introducing new audiences to this story. I mean, of course, other people knew of the story, but like me, I didn't know about it. Neither did I know my dad did, um, but he hadn't read the books in so long, and it's kind of like grabbing attention of everybody. How they did this movie, like I think the way that I mean, because you always hear about bad adaptations from books, especially major books or what have you. They did such a fantastic job. I mean, granted, there are going to be some things that people are not going to agree with. I understand, and they're valid criticisms, but it's like how you can't get this level of quality and care for adaptations like this.
Like I said at the start, the Fellowship of the Ring, in terms of the movie Fellowship of the Ring, is the most the book out of all three of the movies. In the
Yes.
other movies, they had a little bit more changes, adaptations, moving chapters from here to there. Other people saying the same things that like other characters should have said, but in terms of one of the things that they did was, like I said, streamline the timeline itself of when things are happening to make sure that it's built like a movie rather
Mhm.
than a story. Because
Mhm.
again, giving a full book to movie is impossible because you would need 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, and it's not feasible. You're talking at this point, you're talking about, well, we'll just make a movie budget TV series a la Game of Thrones
Yeah.
or House of the Dragon or take your pick, okay? And and at that point in time, early 2000s, they really didn't have that in mind. What they wanted to do is tell a concise story with a feasible, discernible timeline that people can grab to. Again, shortening those 17 years into something that kind of looks like a few months, a few weeks maybe, and then moving the story along from a sort of like point to point to point, so we understand the journey. We're on that journey. We're with those characters. Oh, they're splitting up. Oh, I want to be with them. No, I want to see their point of view. I want to see more. Is that hook that pulls you from a literal, let's call it a 2.5 hour movie originally, or close to 3 hour movie, theatrical version, into sort of like, I need to wait a full year now until the next one, and then I need to wait another year to get the next one. That's how it was when it came to the theaters. People were talking about this for a year, and then you had the second movie, and then another year, and then the third movie.
And
That
in so many ways too,
that initial hook needed to be there in order for people to come back.
and in so many ways, you mentioned this before, Meph. Game of Thrones is, I think, the best current adaptation. The first few seasons that were actually based off of George R. R. Martin's works. We don't talk about the later seasons, but the end of every single cliffhanger of the first couple of seasons were these big things where people were like chomping at the bit, waiting for more and waiting for more and waiting for more.
Yeah.
This happened with. It was different with even the original Star Wars trilogy, because I think Empire was a little bit different, but the original Star Wars had a pretty good ending to it, where they could have capped it off there.
Yes.
A New Hope,
correct.
It could have just they could have just stopped right there.
That's why I heard it said somewhere else. Pretty sure Gary from Nerdrotic said it, and after he said it, I really had a good think about it. Is it actually true or not? This trilogy, on the whole, is the best trilogy of any trilogy so far, because first of all, it has a lot going for it, because it was built after 3 books, blah blah blah. But it's not just the 3 books that helped it. It also the execution of the adaptation, giving you that
Yes.
hook, giving you that I want to know more at the end of the movie, but it's already been 3 hours already that I've spent, but I want to know more. That's why people actually do this. They take a full day and they spend almost 12 hours watching all 3 of the extended cuts, because it's a full story from start to finish with a cohesive timeline between all the different characters. Sometimes they're doing stuff at the same time, but in order for us to see it, we have to stop and move to the next storyline and see the progression there.
Well, it allows for the audience to move along with the story. It doesn't to not add confusion, to not add, it also adds payoffs, callbacks, everything. And you're right. This is probably the most cohesive trilogy of any I would say of any trilogy, because it definitely grabs the attention from people who are not even particularly fans of fantasy. It's just so it tells a really good complete story. And even though yes, it's not verbatim from the books themselves. A book audience is different from a movie audience. So how are you going to be able to bridge the gap between the two? So you're going to have to blend that, and I think they do a good job blending it.
That's why a lot of concessions were made in order to have
Yep.
the integrity of the story be a sort of a cohesive movie-based story, but also giving you enough information that is in those books, but told by a different character, told as an exposition dump, told as we know, with the information that we have to know, we know. a lot of different things were changed. I'm going to answer a question from the chat before we kind of wrap everything up and in a neat little bow. James Mendoka said, what is your favorite Lord of the Rings character? It's very hard to choose. Mine is Aragorn
Hmm.
because I'm a big, I love the Silmarillion. And I love how that ties into Lord of the Rings, to be honest.
I
Max?
feel, gosh, I feel
It's
like
really-
I feel like my favorite character changes like every time I think about it or watch the movies or something like that. I don't know why. I think it's just because there's so much depth with all of them that you just fall in love with them more, and it's like,
It used to be Gandalf was my favorite.
mm.
Yeah.
I do. I love Aragorn. I mean, as let me tell you this right now. I'm not a big prequel Star Wars fan. I do enjoy them. I think they do add something, some level of lore and world building to the storyline. But let me tell you, if I look at somebody like Anakin Skywalker versus Aragorn when I was like a young teenager, let me tell you, Aragorn wins every single time because he's a freaking man and he's not whiny and everything. But it's like, but you know, he was a genuine hero. But I don't know. My favorite two characters, if together especially, is Eowyn and Faramir. I think because
Hmm.
I relate to Eowyn in terms of trying to find your own way and trying to in a world that is chaotic. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And trying to
I see your point. I see your point.
yes, yeah, and trying to find your own way and but also protecting the people you love at the same time. Um and you know, and I love Faramir where he's trying to do his duty too, but he doesn't receive that kind of love from the people that he admires, which, you know.
The oppressive dad complex.
Exactly. But then he loves his people and he's going to do it without fail. So, yeah. I think really those two, like I love Aragorn, I love Arwen, but I like Eowyn and Faramir.
Okay. Feelings?
Oh,
You're
I have
not
a fun one. I have a fun one for you.
Pippin.
No, no, definitely not.
Okay.
Wormtongue.
Oh my gosh. The
Okay.
Snape of the universe.
Yeah, the reason why
Not
is
even
because
Snape.
no, yeah, the plotting of his character is so great and how subversive
You
his
just
his,
like Brad Dourif.
his grace. Well, yes, also he's the voice of Chucky. I mean,
Yeah, I know. You're just like Brad Dourif. And I understand the appeal.
Yes.
But you are very no, just kidding. It's your favorite character. What can I say? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to end the show. It was one of the longer shows that we did, but we covered basically a fraction of the movie. But it is what it is because
little speed run.
You almost have to EFAP this movie because it's kind of there's so many details.
there's so many details, and it could definitely be a 4-hour show just about this movie, but it will have to be here. So, Mags, please tell us what's coming up for you in terms of content creation or anything that you do. Of course, the everywhere you can find Mags is in the description down below, so please check it out.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. I feel like everywhere all at once sometimes. But content creation, it's kind of been put on hold for a long time. I'm gonna have to be evaluating next year in terms of that. But I would like to bring back more of the game streams. I do love gaming. I have fun with it. In fact, this morning before the show, I was Fortniting for the first time, so I have fallen to the dark side of that.
Dark side.
But
Wait.
but
I've got a Balrog voice for you.
Welcome to the dark side. It's time to play Fortnite.
so it was I had a ball, I had a blast, and maybe I can do even more collabs with that because I think, you know, just having fun with friends and just people in general, you know, that's kind of where and why I'm here to begin with. and also talking about favorite movies, good quality movies, and talking about uh, good quality films in the future. But then you can always catch me around Toxic Femininity on Midnight's Edge Midnight's Edge on Mondays in the evenings. That's usually 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then sometimes I will, at least when I try to, I will sometimes hang out on Comics Division's channel for Monday Night Meltones, the Yelling at Parked Cars on Wednesdays, and Thursday Night Thursdays. But usually you can find me in those two places. But then also next week on Thursday at 8 p.m., Dames and Dorks is back on Inside All Day podcast, where I and Nadia, Lily, Dr. Rachel Lindbergh, as we discuss any news and pop culture, and talk about good movies and shows that are out there as well. So you can catch the girls on Dames and Dorks next Thursday on Inside All Day podcast at 8 p.m. So but as far as everything else is concerned, I can't think of anything else, but you can catch me everywhere. Like, I'm on Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, all that good stuff. So
Kick, Twitch, all that is in description down below. Please give Max a follow, and you can follow her to all the different shows, guests around.
Yep.
thank you, Mephisto, and thank you, Feelings, for having me. This has been a fun show, and I know this show could go on forever. So with this movie,
Yes, it could.
So for me, please go to Twitter at Mephisto or X or Twix or whatever you want to call it. Instagram, same.
I say Zitter.
9. You can always email the show at the Reel McCoy podcast as gmail.com. Suggestions, all that good stuff. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. Have a good night.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.